Shalom, welcome back. Tonight I'm going to be talking about a subject that's rather emotionally charged for some people, and I know that some people are probably not going to like what I have to say. But I keep getting these emails from people asking me if I believe in flat earth, or wanting me to watch a video about flat earth, or whatever the case may be. And really, I haven't dealt with this subject because, to be honest with you, I think it's kind of silly. But there's a lot of people out there that think that somehow this is a barometer about whether you're saved or not, or whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe the earth is flat. I'm not sure how things got to that point, or why some people feel like that this is something that they need to continually promote. But to me, I don't think, first of all, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but just this sheer frustration of getting these emails and seeing things like this in my news feed, which do not prove the earth is flat at all, but yet it's always being promoted as proof that the earth is flat. It's gotten to the point where I'm just going to go ahead and give my 2 cents and what I believe about it, and hopefully some people will appreciate my perspective. And if you're one of the people that don't, or if it upsets you, then I'm sorry, but nevertheless, I'm not going to I can't support this doctrine. I don't believe there's proof of it. I don't believe there's evidence that the earth is flat, and the evidence that I've seen with my own 2 eyes indicate that the earth is a sphere. And I'll tell you what that is if you make it through my presentation. So why do I not believe that this picture proves that the earth is flat? So there in the background, in the center of the photo, you can see the very tip top of Mount Fuji. And I'm not sure how many miles away this mountain is, but supposedly because you can see the very tip top of the mountain, that proves that the earth is flat. Now notice the photo is taken from, it appears to be taken from an airplane or something, because it's extremely high up. It's taken at a high altitude. You also see pictures like this, which I believe this came from a weather balloon, but it's a extremely high altitude, and because the horizon is flat, that somehow proves that the earth is flat. Now keep in mind, relatively speaking, the thickness of our atmosphere in comparison to the earth itself, if the way I believe is correct, that the earth is a sphere, the thickness of the atmosphere would be less than the thickness of the skin of an apple relative to the size of the rest of the apple. So when you think about how high up you would be to be in the upper atmosphere of the earth, well, compared to the size of an apple, you're not even through the skin. So relatively speaking, you're still pretty close to the surface of the earth, even though you're several miles up. So I'm not really, myself personally, I'm not sure that you would be able to see a curve at this altitude. I think you would have to get up further than the Earth's atmosphere, outside of the Earth's atmosphere, if the Earth is a sphere, to be able to see the curve. So for that reason, I don't believe that this proves anything, and I'll get further into details of why I don't believe it in just a moment. Another type of photo I see is something like this, where you got this guy in the foreground, he's on top of a mountain or on top of an extremely high hill, and in the background you can see the very tip top of some skyscrapers, and this proves that the earth is flat. Or you see this, where it's taken from a plane and there's no curve to the horizon. So this proves that the earth is flat. Or a picture taken of the ocean, and the ocean horizon is perfectly straight, and this proves that the earth is flat. And I would submit to you that it does not. Now, the premise of why people say that this proves that the earth is flat is because they say, well, you're looking at this straight line of the horizon. But I would submit to you, you're not looking at a straight line. You're looking at a circle. And the reason is because if you have a straight line and one end of the line is going east and one end of the line is going west, those two ends of the line will not come back together. That's what a line is. A line, the ends of a line go in separate directions. However, if you're sitting on a raft in the middle of the ocean and you're looking to the north and you see the ocean looking like this, and so you begin to turn to the right, and so as you turn, now you're facing east, and you continue turning, and then you're facing south, and you're watching the horizon the whole time. And so then you continue turning, and now you're facing west, and you turn a little bit further, and now you're facing north again. Where are the two ends of the horizon? Well, there's not two ends of the horizon. The horizon came, it went all the way around in a circle and came back to itself. There's not two horizons. So you're not looking at a straight line. You're looking at a circle, and you're in the center of the circle. So regardless of whether it is a flat earth or a round earth, the horizon is still going to go all the way around and connect to itself. This photo proves nothing at all. Now think about it. Let's say that you could see a curve here. And so you would presume that on each end of this photo, the horizon would be curving slightly down. Okay, let's say we're looking at the right side of the picture and the horizon is curving slightly down. And then you keep turning, and so again you're turning and now you're facing east. Where would that horizon be at? Would the horizon be, 10 foot lower? And then you turn further south and now the horizon's going like straight down? No, it's the horizon. It's going to go straight all the way around. It doesn't matter if you're on a flat plane or if you're on a spherical earth. It's not going to curve. You're not going to see a curve. Now, this is very little different than looking at a pool cue from across the room and being able to tell if it's straight or not. So, I've personally played a lot of pool in my day. And me and my friends, we used to go out to pool halls and we would, play a few games of pool together. And when you get there, if you don't have your own pool cue, then you're going to go and use one from the rack on the wall. Now, I've never seen anyone stand about 10 feet away from the rack and look at it and say, this particular pool cue here is the most straight on the rack. And then they pick up a pool stick and that's the one they play with. No one does that. What you do, what just about everybody does, is you look down the end of the pool cue. That's how you look for a curve. You don't look for a curve across the room. You look down the pool cue. Same thing here. You're not going to prove or disprove a curve by looking from this angle. And to be honest with you, if you're on a sphere, wherever you look in the horizon, even if you're on this airplane like in the bottom photo, the earth is going to be curving away from you in every direction. So it is still going to make a straight line because the earth is curving away from you at the same rate in every direction. So that generates a straight line. Hopefully you can understand that. Most people don't. So let's see if we can find a diagram to help us understand what we're going to be looking for. So instead of looking across the horizon for the curve, we're going to be looking down the proverbial pool cue to see the curve between us and a distant object. Now, and we're going to be looking across a body of water because obviously if we're looking across land, there can be hills and mountains and things in the way and it's not very consistent. But if we're looking across a large body of water, water finds a level. If you're on a flat earth, that level will be perfectly flat. If, as I believe, you're looking across the curve of the earth, then the water itself will be curved. It won't be a straight, flat surface. So on the left side of the screen, you see a little black line, and at the top of it, it says I, and then the bottom of it, of course, would be the surface of the earth. And keep in mind that this drawing is not to scale. It is very much compressed from right to left. If we would probably need to stretch this thing out to 10 or 20 times its width to really get a good scale of what we would be looking at if we were looking across a lake or something like that. It has a very slight curve. And so you have the location where it says I, that would be where your camera lens would be. And then on the right side, there is a red and green line that says visible and hidden. This would be your buildings in the distance, or this would be a tree on the other side of the body of water or something like that. One thing worth mentioning is that I've seen in a couple of videos, these guys promoting the flat earth will say, like, well, you should be able to tell that the buildings are sloping away from you. Okay, if you take the circumference of the earth, which is just under 25,000 miles, and you divide it by 360, you'll come up with 69 miles, which means that you have to be looking at something 69 miles away for there to be a 1 degree tilt. Now, let me ask you something. Why do carpenters use levels? And the answer is, when a carpenter is erecting a structure, they want to make sure that whatever they are erecting is perfectly level. So you'll use a level if you're putting up a wall to make sure the wall's not leaning to one side or another. So if you need a tool to help you determine if a wall that you are holding is straight up and down, what makes you think that you can look at a building 70 miles away from you and be able to tell if it is leaning 1 degree away from you? There's no way you could tell that with your visible eye. So anyone who tells you that, well, look at these buildings, you should be seeing them leaning away from you, and the fact that you can't tell that they're leaning away from you is proof that the earth is flat, that tells you that they're trying to deceive you because there's no way you could look across the room and tell if the wall is leaning 1 degree away from you, much less 70 miles away from you. I just want to throw that out there. So, as we're looking at this diagram, in the middle, you see a green dot, and it says, right next to the word horizon. Now, this would be the surface. If you're looking across a body of water, this would be the horizon of the water. So I'm going to throw in my own little orange line here. This little spot in the middle, this horizon, we're going to call this our tangent point. It's basically the fulcrum on which your line of sight moves upon. Now, if you take your eyes to the left side of the screen where it says I, now if you move your eyes up, so let's say that you get on an elevator and you go to the top floor of a building, or you walk up a hill on one side of this body of water, if you move your camera upwards, then your tangent point moves further away and you're able to see more of the hidden object on the right side. And just coincidentally, if you just move your camera or your eyes up just a little bit, as you see there on the left, the tangent point moves quite a bit further, much further than the amount that you move up. Likewise, if you move the camera down, then your tangent point, or your water horizon, as we call it, will move closer to you, and you won't be able to see as much of the object on the far side of the lake. So in this instant, if you were looking at trees, across a lake from you, you would only be able to see the very tops of the trees. You wouldn't be able to see their trunks. You wouldn't be able to see the beach on the other side. You would just see the tops of trees. Now, and the point of this whole exercise of looking at these different diagrams is to point out that the best photos to prove the earth is flat would be taken as close to the water level as possible. So if the earth were flat and you wanted to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the earth is flat, what you would want to do is, as you're taking the photo across the body of water, is you would want to go down to the beach, go down there, maybe even get your feet in the water, kneel down, and get the camera to where it's just a foot above the surface of the water. Because if the earth was flat, there would be no tangent point. There would be no hump between you and the distant target of your photo. You would be able to stand on one side of the lake and take a photo of the other side of the lake, and you could see the beach and everything from a camera that's just a foot off the ground. And the one thing I really don't like about this diagram here is the way that it kind of slopes down, because that's not really what we're looking at if we're looking across a body of water to the other side. We're looking at something more like this, where you're looking over a hump. And so everything below the hump there in the blue would be hidden from view. And so that would tell you that the earth is not flat, because there would be a hump that that's blocking your view of the lower side of whatever object you're looking at. For instance, there's this famous photo of the Chicago skyline that a lot of people in the flat earth movement promote as being proof that the earth is flat, because it's a photo of Chicago taken from like 40 miles away or something. And so, as you can see, the top photo is a cropped version of that photo that the flat earth folks are promoting. Below it is a picture of the actual skyline taken from a boat in the lake, much closer. And as you can see from these two photos, there's quite a bit of the lower part of these buildings is hidden, about 20 or 30 stories. Now, remember when I said that the location of your camera, to truly prove that the earth is flat, your camera location would need to be as low as possible, down on the beach. But according to the Facebook page of Joshua Nowicki, the guy that took that photo, he says that he was taking this photo from the top of a dune, and he gives the location as Grand Mere State Park. Well, there's actually some photos of Grand Mere State Park, and here's a photo of one of the dunes he was on. It's actually a really big dune. So it's not like he was, maybe 10 feet up from the water line. He could have been, this looks like it could be as high as 80 feet on this particular dune. I don't know if this is the one he took the photo from or not. This is just a photo of one that I found on the internet. But the point is, he was on top of a dune. I would expect that he probably went to the tallest dune that he could find in the area he was going to take the picture from. That would make sense. That's what most people would do if they were wanting to take this long distance photo across the lake. So when he went up to that high elevation, he was able to see much, much further across that lake. And so that little bit of distance that he moved up actually gave him a lot more distance where he would be able to see. That and the fact that the buildings that he's photographing on the opposite side are extremely tall. So in this example, I don't believe this actually proves the earth is flat. In fact, I believe it proves the earth has a curve, because the bottom part of those buildings was hidden from view. Here's another photo. This is a photo of Malibu Beach taken from 11 miles out in the ocean. The first photo, the photo on the left, was taken with the camera about 2 feet above the water. The photo on the right was taken with the camera about 6 feet above the water. So a difference of 4 feet on the camera height, actually allowed you to be able to see about 2 more stories in the hotel. And then in the middle of the screen, you can see an up-close photo of the hotel, and you can see that there's beach there. There's the equivalent of about a story or so of rocks under the hotel. So even from this photo on the right, where you can see more of the hotel, there's still quite a bit that's hidden from view. Notice also that here, this horizon, the fulcrum point, or the tangent point, it looks much closer than the background does. Now, this tangent point here looks to me like it is less than half the distance of the background. Now, depending on the height of the camera versus the distance to the background, it could be more or less than halfway. But this particular photo, the water looks to be much, much closer. And in fact, and I didn't really put an arrow to this to demonstrate it, but if you look at the water itself, on the left side, you can see that there's an area where the water kind of looks brownish, and then past that, higher up, it looks blue. But then on the other side, there's much more of this blue water there below that horizon. And I believe that that's actually water that you couldn't see in the first picture. So you're able to see more of the water and more of the object on the far side of the body of water. Now, there's actually something you can do yourself if you're at the beach. And I know that you can do it yourself because I went to Gulf Shores last summer, and while I was at the beach, I was thinking about this whole flat earth controversy. I did my own experiment. And it's very simple. You can do it yourself. Wade down into the ocean and look for a sailboat. And when you see the sailboat out in the ocean, you need to wade out until the seawater is about up to your stomach or so. And, if the sailboat is several hundred yards away, you should be able to see pretty much the whole sailboat. It'll look like the photo there on the right. Now, then kneel down in the water and get low enough to where your chin is sitting in the water, and you'll see a hump come up between you and the sailboat and conceal the entire sailboat. In this particular photo, they were taking the photo 2 feet above the water and then 6 feet above the water. And you can see that the horizon of the water, or the tangent point, it raises up because there's a curve there. So it makes the water appear to come up and cover the bottom of the boat. So, also, one area that I'm really familiar with is Mobile Bay. I lived in Mobile for several years. I actually used to work on the bay, so I've seen the bay quite a bit. And if you're on one side of Mobile Bay and you're looking across the bay to the other side, this is kind of what you see. You'll see, the water, and then above the water you'll see the treetops. And that's the general view that you see a lot of times of Mobile. So last summer, at the same time that I went to Gulf Shores, I also went and visited Dauphin Island, and we drove across the Dauphin Island Bridge. And as I was going across the Dauphin Island Bridge, I was looking east across the bay to the other side. Now, the thing that's unique about the Dauphin Island Bridge is that it's got a hump in it. So you go from being pretty close to water level up to this high elevation, which is probably 40, 50 feet up, maybe more than that even. It may be as high as 60 feet that you go up in the air and then back down. And I'll tell you what I saw when I went across this bridge. I don't have a video of it because I was driving, and this was months ago, and I didn't really expect to make a video about this, but I'll tell you what I saw. Looking across the bay, I saw, from my perspective, it appeared that the trees on the far side raised up and the horizon of the water went down, kind of like that. And when it did, I was able to see much more of the trees behind that water horizon. In fact, I could see the beaches, I could see the tree trunks, I could see, if there had been people on the other side, I would be able to see them. I was actually kind of surprised because it appeared that the trees and stuff on the far side of the bay, it was actually closer than I thought they would be. And when I saw that, and there was a huge amount of water that suddenly became visible that was behind the curve of the earth, when I saw that, there was no doubt in my mind that there was a curve to Mobile Bay, that the earth was curved. Like, it was obvious with the naked eye. So if you're the listener, if you want to yourself test whether the earth is flat or round, find a body of water near where you live and go out and just, look around and see if you can find an area on that body of water where you can tell. And to me, a lot of times it's really obvious. Even looking at this photo here, it's very obvious to me that the water, even at the horizon of the water, looks much closer than the trees behind it. I would say that tangent point is probably half the distance as the trees behind it. And it's much harder to tell with a camera. I mean, if you're out there with your naked eye, it looks a lot more obvious. So, if you live near a large lake or if you live near a bay, any of these places, you can go and do your own experiments and you can see for yourself. But these pictures that people are taking from the top of a mountain or from an airplane or whatever, like way up in the sky, that's not going to prove that the earth is flat or that the earth is round. Neither. You have to, if you're looking for a curve, you have to be on the surface of the earth, as close to water level as possible. Also, somebody actually went to Lake Pontchartrain with a high-powered camera and took lots of photos, lots of video. I'll put a link to one of the videos in the description so you can, if there's not a body of water near you, you can watch that video and you can see where someone else went, did the work for you, and you can see that obviously there's a curve. I posted this picture on Facebook yesterday, and to me, it's obvious that the power lines curve over the surface of the earth. This is Lake Pontchartrain in Louisiana. Some people were saying, no, this is obviously flat. It's obviously flat. Well, when we add a straight line in there, it's obviously not flat. It's obviously curved. I don't see how anyone could look at this and not see the curve of the earth as these power lines go over the curve, over the hump. Another photo from the other side. Again, you can see them curving over the earth. Here's a zoomed in close-up photo. So when you see these photos online that say, where's the curve, where's the curve, it's because of the perspective they're looking from. So anyway, I pray that this has been a blessing to you. If you are someone who believes in the flat earth and you can make excuses or you can say, oh, that's photoshopped or whatever, I would suggest you get out from behind the computer and go and do your own experiment. Because a lot of these photos, I don't think that they're purposefully put out to deceive, but they're not proving what you think that they prove, is what I'm saying. So go out and do your own experiments, do your own observation, and see if you can figure it out for yourself. See if you can see it for yourself. I saw it for myself going across the Dauphin Island Bridge. I saw it. It was undeniable to me. You're not going to be able to convince me that the earth is flat. You're not, because I've seen it. I've seen the curve. I saw the curve down at the beach looking at a sailboat. I'm thoroughly convinced. I know from direct firsthand experience that the earth is not flat. So, go out and look for yourself. Thank you for listening. Shalom.